free man, Mr. Assange.
Congratulations!
How do you feel about the sentence, sir?
Quick
comment about the sentence.
Today is a historic day. It brings to an end 14 years of legal battles. And finally, after 14 years of legal battles, Julian Assange can go home a free man. This also brings to an end a case which has been recognised as the greatest threat to the First Amendment in the 21st century. So it is a huge relief to Julian Assange, to his family, to his friends, to his supporters, and to us, and to everyone who believes in free speech around the world, that he can now return home to Australia and be reunited with his family. I want to take this opportunity to thank the many people who have, around the world, supported Julian Assange over these years and who have supported us in defending him. There has been a global movement behind Julian to protect free speech, and it is because of that global movement of support that today's outcome is possible. I also want to take time to thank the Australian people and the Australian government for all of the support that we've received from home in Australia. In particular, I want to thank our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, for his statesmanship, his principled leadership and his diplomacy, which made this outcome possible. It was as Leader of the Opposition, he said, and took a stand for justice and said, enough is enough, there is nothing to be served by Julian's continued incarceration. As Prime Minister, he stood true to his word and he did what he needed to do to ensure Julian's freedom. He raised it at the highest level, at every opportunity, and when Australian officials were making outreach to the US, they knew that they were acting with the full authority of the Prime Minister of Australia. It was his intention that this be done, and we wouldn't be here today without the Prime Minister of Australia's support. So I want to thank Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. I also want to thank our Attorney General Mark Dreyfus, our Foreign Minister Penny Wong, and give particular thanks to our US Ambassador and former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd for his adept diplomacy and his relentless efforts in Washington that facilitated our negotiations with the US government and ensured this outcome. I also want to thank our High Commissioner in London, Stephen Smith, whose tireless work enabled us all to be here today. I think it's also important that we recognise the free speech implications of this case. Julian has suffered for more than 14 years because of the risk of extradition to the United States. He faced 175 years in prison for publishing evidence of war crimes, human rights abuse and US wrongdoing around the world. Today he pleaded guilty to an offence for having published information in the public interest, for which he's won journalism awards the world over and been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize every year for the past decade. This sets a dangerous precedent. This prosecution sets a dangerous precedent that should be of concern to journalists everywhere. The US is seeking to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction over all of you without giving you constitutional free speech protections. And anyone who cares about free speech and democratic accountability should stand against it. But I want to encourage everyone that stood up and fought for Julian to continue to stand up and fight against this dangerous precedent. I hope that the fact that we've been able to free Julian Assange today against all the odds and against one of the most powerful governments in the world will give hope to all journalists and publishers who are imprisoned around the world. And we encourage everyone who stood to fight for Julian to continue that fight for him and for all of those others in the hope that we can secure their freedom too.
What's your message to the press?
Message to journalists around the world today, Mr Assange.
What's the message to the press?
Justice is served today.
Julian Assange leaves the courtroom to head to the airport.
Can I give you 1 hour shirt, please?
What do you say to those who still think you're a hero, Mr. Assange?
Can I give 1 hour?
Out the way.
Don't stop.
What do you think of that man's beard?
How many in this one?